Heads up, friends. The unofficial Shopify podcast is made by indie entrepreneurs for indie entrepreneurs and may contain material not suitable for all audiences, like swearing or economics. Listener discretion is advised.
Gumbo, crawdads, gumbo. You have some gumbo?
I think that's offensive, but I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. French fried mashed potatoes. That's just Sling Blade.
I was going to say, we moved into Sling Blade pretty quickly there, Billy Bob. I do enjoy a good Sling Blade impression.
Well, it's very easy.
Yeah,
it's 3 words. I think the key to an impression is you just need to get like 1 word. I think that's literally what Dana Carvey does.
yeah.
He just gets 1 word and then just hammers it until it has like bent out of shape and now turns all other, and then like goes off from there.
French fried taters. I assume you're doing your Cajun Billy Bob there in reference to the fact that I just got back from New Orleans and I did make myself ill eating delicious fried food. I got shrimp and grits, fried alligator, a number of po' boys. The fried alligator was on a po' boy, if that helps.
What makes
gumbo? Oh, gumbo.
What makes a sandwich a poor boy sandwich?
Stop that. You know full well it's a po' boy.
I would like 3 poor boy sandwiches, please.
That's a lot of sandwich. 3, so that's a lot. You know, a hoagie, sliced cucumbers, I think, some mayo, and some shrimp. Good to go. That's close enough.
So you were there for what? There was like a conference? There was a bunch of, there was a loser conference? What was going on?
Well, there was a conference. It was not for losers. It was Andrew Udarian, who, fellow podcaster, hosts eCommerceFuel podcast, but also that's an event. He calls it ECF Live. And this was the 10th one, which was cool. And they hosted it in New Orleans, in French Quarter, JW Marriott. And he's like, hey, Kurt, you should come out and check it out. But the miraculous thing about this conference, weirdly, no egos.
What? ECF?
eCommerceFuel.
All right, there you go.
Yeah, ECF Live, eCommerceFuel.
And those are?
Well, podcast, but I think more importantly, a forum.
Okay.
Yeah, he has a community that's been going a while. And then he did, an annual live event series. And this was, I went to the 10th one. When I go to a conference, it's been a while. I was thrilled to go back and interact with people face to face, IRL. It's different. You can't, Zoom's cool and all, but in person, it's different. Also takes a lot out of you. By 8 p.m., I was like, oh, I'm so sleepy.
Yeah, that's why I don't go. I'm fine. I don't know any of these people. You're the one that talks to people. You're like, I know him. He's from this. I know him. He's from this. It's like, I don't know any of these people. Why am I here?
But it's good. It's energizing. You get a lot of new ideas. You get a sense of this is the buzz. This is what's exciting. This is what's hot in the streets. And I think the hot topics for sure, AI and TikTok Shop. I discovered people using ChatGPT for essentially everything. People successfully breaking into the first page of Google with purely AI-generated articles. No fear.
Well, if anyone who has done a Google search in the last 6 months knows that. It's all garbage now.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal out there. I could tell you about it. I could tell you everything I learned. More interesting, more important is those lightning interviews. I recorded those. I gave them to you. Did you cut those together?
Yep, we're all done. We're actually recording this after it's done.
And all that, we're just gonna go into it. Who's up first?
Brett Curry.
We're gonna start with Brett Curry.
Yes,
from OMGcommerce.
You know why?
Why?
Because B was the first letter of a guy you interviewed.
So they're alphabetical by file name. All right, that works for me. Okay, Brett Curry, take it away. Okay, how long have you been coming to ECF?
So funny. I've been an ECF member, I think, for 6 years. I've known Andrew Udarian forever, so I'm a long time, first time. This is my first event because usually I'm coaching basketball this time of year with my kids. This year I'm not coaching, so I'm here at ECF Live. Happy to be here.
And also my first time.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, how could we been both of us been around forever and our first time here, and this is like a premier event, small event, but
that's my preference.
Me too, and it's been awesome.
And okay, so it's your first time here. Give me your impression of what's the makeup of attendees like.
Yeah, so I mean, it's almost all brand owners and sellers. You know, there's a few people like you and me where we're
they're like
kind of
startled.
Yeah, they're like,
yeah. All these merchants are like, ugh. Agency owners.
Yeah. Agency
ugh.
owner, podcast host. I don't know what to do with you.
They get the holy water out.
Yeah. But you know, we're also an investor. We invest in brands and stuff, which is super fun. And so, but yeah, a lot of people that are pretty established. So we found out several of OMG's clients are here. Some that I didn't even know were a part of ECF are here. But yeah, not a lot of new brands. Like these are more established brands and pretty sophisticated, pretty smart, and it's also like a open sharing type of group, which is nice.
All right, give me a key takeaway.
Key takeaway, man. I just walked out of the TikTok Shops presentation, which everybody's talking about that. I just spoke at Prosper Show in Vegas. That was all Amazon sellers. Everybody's talking about TikTok Shops, like at the, the mixers and the things like that. That's what everybody's talking about. And so it was Paul from BK Beauty was kind of breaking down what they've done. And in the matter of a few months, sales from TikTok Shops, and this is an established brand, a really powerful beauty brand, sales on TikTok Shops eclipsed what they were doing on their .com.
Whoa.
Monthly, which is insane. From like, I think he said like from August to October, November, like TikTok eclipsed the website. So we're talking about it needs to be like hero product focused, AOVs are lower, like it's more of a, here's a cool thing I found from this brand, buy it, versus you drive traffic to your website and maybe you're getting people to load up the cart. And so he was talking about his AOVs are about half what they are on his website on TikTok Shop. So that's really cool. And then this is maybe a little not e-commerce specific, but David Klein, who did the management talk the first day. He did like it was like the 7 question, leadership and better management. And essentially I was talking to Bill D'Alessandro, a mutual friend of ours, and we were like, you know what? I think every 6 months or so, we need this content as owners and as CEOs because management is hard. And sometimes, like your instincts related to management, they're just wrong. And so I use the George Costanza analogy. I don't know if you're a Seinfeld fan, but
of course.
But George is like, what if all of my instincts are wrong? And so what if I just look at my instincts and I do the opposite? And
that's like his most successful run ever.
Yeah, exactly. Like picking up girls is like, what if I just do the opposite of what I would normally do? Anyway, but that content was really good on when is the right time to hire, how do you recruit, how do you give feedback loops, how do you allow your team to level up, and just so many good things there. And I think that's where a lot of people are at this event, where it's like, okay, we know some of the tactical stuff. Now a lot of what we're doing is leadership and leading our team of experts, and so that workshop was awesome.
Are you using AI in your business today?
That's one of those things that I feel like I'm behind on. I'm reading about it, I'm paying attention to it, I'm messing around with ChatGPT and stuff. We're not using it like we should. We're not using it enough, I don't think.
I think for you as an ads person, it would be so brilliant for ideation.
Yes.
It's like, all right, let's just get a whole lot of ideas out, we could test, and then we can go make the good creative.
Yeah. And we do have team members that are doing that, so I don't want to paint the picture that we're not using it. And like for the podcast, show notes. Sometimes we're letting AI generate show notes and then we're tweaking them, or headlines or show titles and things like that. But I still think there's ways to go. Like we can get better. And we do have some brands that are like, hey, don't use AI on our brand at all for brand protection, privacy, and stuff like that. So we don't. But yeah, that's maybe a little restricted, but I also get that sentiment as well.
Anything else? Anything I'm missing?
Man, dude, I don't know. It's been really good. I know. I talked about Google and Amazon. It's interesting, like those kind of just tried and true, trusted things, but everybody's still interested in those. I laid out the $20 million a year playbook that we used for Boom and Overtone, Ezra Firestone's brands. So still interested. There's still interest in kind of the fundamentals, but also this group, it seems like, is more D2C, right? So driving traffic to a Shopify store. Amazon is secondary for most people here.
They all talk about Amazon like they are in an abusive relationship with it.
Yes.
They're like, I got to get out of this.
Yeah, like there's a support group for people that have been battered by Amazon, and I get that too, but it's like it's a necessary evil, and I think, that's what we like. That's what I talked about with Overtone as an example. One of Ezra's brands is almost all the growth last year came from Amazon. D2C grew some too, but like we just realized, man, Amazon is taking off. Let's double down. Let's launch new products. Let's put all our effort there. And that's where the majority of the growth came from, was on Amazon. And I think there's a lot of brands that could be that way. It's maybe a little bit different to manage your margins and make sure you're profitable on Amazon. But man, the opportunity is still there for so many brands.
Somebody told me Amazon fees are 40% of their margin.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's insanity.
Yeah, it's just like it all, because you got to advertise on it now, and all this stuff adds up.
Pick, pack, and ship, FBA fees, all that nonsense. Yeah, it's a lot.
All right. When I go to a conference, I take action items, and when I get home, there's usually like one thing that I'm definitely doing. What's your one thing?
Yeah, so as an agency owner, we've got a contact who reached out to us who wants to help us launch TikTok shops, and I'm like, all right, I'm doing it. Like I'm doing that thing. And so TikTok shops for sure, and then I'm sharing some of those leadership principles with all of my leaders. So those are the two things. Yeah.
All right, who are you? What do you do?
Okay. Are you recording?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm Elaine. I am a business advisor with QuietLight, so I help people sell their online businesses.
How many times have you been to this conference?
This will be my third one.
Third one?
Yes.
All right, that's 2 more times than I have been.
Okay.
And so, what's your impression of the people? What's an ECFer like?
Yeah. Whenever somebody asks me about like, hey, what's eCommerceFuel all about? I'd say this is a really, really great community of high-level sellers across all niches. And when you need an answer to like a really obscure question, there's no better place to come. Like there's somebody in this community that knows something about like any random element of anything that's related to e-commerce. It's like, this is where you go. This is where you find like the experts in this space.
Anything that has surprised you?
I am always just like surprised with the variety of businesses. People are doing like the most random, really cool things. Everyone is also super down to earth. Like there are some huge 8-figure sellers here, but they're, you would never know it. Just talking to them. It's just like talking to someone, random you meet at a restaurant or just out and about. Everyone is very, very humble, but also have crazy success stories.
So what's a niche that surprised you? Because I've heard like live chickens.
Yeah.
Deck accessories and
live frogs.
I was going to say, someone was selling live reptiles for sure.
Yes, yeah.
And the chicken and the reptile guy, different people.
Yeah. And there's there's like a horse subscription box for people that have horses and want horse accessories. There's like all kinds of like random things. If you can think about it, like you can buy anything online right now. There is a business around anything that you see in your day-to-day life. Out and about, like there's probably somebody with the e-commerce business around that.
And you help people sell their businesses.
Yeah.
What's your feeling on the market? Are people still selling businesses? Are people still looking to buy e-commerce businesses?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the market's really stabilized in the last year or two after the aggregator boom has really boom and bust, if you will. Things are really starting to stabilize and even pick up a little bit. I've seen in the last month or so, the businesses we've listed, if they are really high quality businesses, good growth trends, good fundamentals, we're getting a lot of traction on them and a lot of offers. It's harder to sell those declining businesses right now. Those are definitely selling for lower multiples than they were a few years ago, but there's still strong demand for high quality businesses.
As we ring in the new year, did you know that over 90% of Shopify merchants won't hit their maximum revenue in 2024? Ugh! That's because they're killing their conversion rates by using outdated landing page designs and default templates. You work hard all year, and you deserve to realize your dream of owning a successful store. But without the right tools, it's like running a marathon with lead weights tied to your feet. That's where Zipify Pages comes in. Zipify Pages is the game-changing landing page builder created by the founder of a $180 million Shopify store. It has everything you need to transform your store into a high-converting, sales-generating machine. Zipify Pages' intuitive builder, mobile-optimized templates, and AI-powered features are helping thousands of Shopify stores boost their conversion rates and run more profitable marketing campaigns. Zipify Pages improves every page on your Shopify store. Just select a template from their template library and then quickly customize it to match your brand. You can easily create better product pages, landing pages, category pages, even home pages. And because every Zipify template is tested on their $180 million Shopify store, you know they actually work. So don't let 2024 drift by with unmet revenue goals. Upgrade your store today with Zipify Pages and make this your best new year yet. Go to zipify.com/Kurt to start a free 14-day trial. That's zipify.com/KURT to try Zipify Pages for free.
All right, who are you and what do you do?
I'm Eulalie Cook. I go by Lee, and I work with a company called Tadpull. I'm a co-founder there. My title is Chief Data Officer. And so what that means is that I get to help e-commerce merchants build resilient brands by leveraging their data really well. We have an e-commerce software, and then we also have professional services.
Okay, and what brings you to eComFuel?
eComFuel, I think we always find eComFuel just to be such a great community where you kind of see what is going on in the industry, what are people struggling with, and also just like kind of, it's an opportunity to learn and an opportunity to teach, really.
I've discovered a lot of people here came here with something in mind, a problem, a pain they wanted to solve. What's yours?
That's a really good question. I feel like there's always numerous things that it touches on. I think some of the things that really resonated with me is just like, how are people leveraging AI? I think that's one of the most prevalent themes that I've seen at ECF Live this year. And then I think the other thing, and we are a remote team, I think that's another area that there's just been a lot of really good discussion around how people are managing culture and keeping people connected. What is the cadence they bring people together, and how do you do that well?
And how are people using AI in their business? What are some of the creative uses we've seen?
Oh my gosh. I would say some of the most interesting things that I heard and was in, Julia Tunstall had a great example of she's created a couple of GPTs, and she lets them talk to each other and let them debate one another. And I just thought, wow, that kind of blew my mind. And so
it's funny. Yeah, I was like, there's what is the point of a custom GPT? I didn't get it. And then now that I came here and I saw how people are using them, where it's like it's a pre-assigned role with more limited data, which makes it more accurate, like less prone to hallucinating, and then they make them talk to each other. I think you could like mention bots in a chat, make them talk to each other.
Yeah, that was a really fun use case. And then I just think there's been a lot of good, great discussion. I know Kevin Williams gave a great session this morning as well, so there's just been a lot of really good, insightful things. And then just people being so open and sharing tips and tricks, how you're using it, what you're doing with it. Any
key takeaways?
I think one is just always be testing. It doesn't matter what it is. I think that as more data people, I think we always are interested in playing on that cutting edge, but you don't want to bleed. And so I think that there's a lot of interesting ways of, playing with it. We're actually using it within our software, and we have we're training a GPT on some proprietary information and textbooks that my partner and co-founder has written. And so there's so many interesting applications, and I think you have to be playing with it so you can understand where it's good, where it's bad, and how you can continue to grow and learn.
What's your favorite ChatGPT prompt?
Oh man, one of my favorite use cases is just any kind of sticky HR stuff that I don't really want to deal with, and just removing names, obviously, but also just being able to summarize some of that work and take the emotional labor out of it. It really helps.
It's funny how often people are turning to the AI for help with interpersonal problems.
Yes.
At least once I've been like, hey, my wife's mad at me. Here's why. Please help.
I think that was another great use case that I really appreciated hearing of just okay, what did I do? This was the situation.
Yeah.
And ChatGPT told you what to do. And then you followed up and asked it how to apologize, which is also a good tactic.
Yeah. Not necessarily always the most self-aware individual. So I'm like, I know she's mad at me, but what have I done wrong here?
Yes.
I don't know. That's making it to the final cut. All right. Most fun moment at ECF.
Oh my gosh, there's so many. I think just seeing all the people that have been around a long time and just seeing their success in general. I think we started coming, so the New Orleans ECF Live was our first one, the previous one, so I think it was about 6 years ago. And so just coming back and seeing the same people year over year, and then also meeting the new people who are joining. I think those are just the reunion moments are probably my favorite and some of the most fun things. Just seeing some of the people that have been around a long time. And then Blair Budlong, he had, an exit, he's now done. It's kind of interesting to just see people on the other side.
And so this is your sixth one?
Yes, I believe so.
How have they changed over 6 years?
Well, I think initially, and I remember having that first timer thing where it's like, there's so many people here, a lot of them seem to know one another, but it's very open and inviting community. And so I think just as you go to more and more of them, you kind of feel like you're just part of the community and you get to welcome the newcomers. And then you also just get to see some of these repeated faces, and it really just it's so fun. It's like having this group of people that you come back and just visit once a year. Then we all go back and get in our little holes of, e-commerce niches that we all work in. And then it's just an opportunity to, I guess, get out of your hole, see different ideas, be exposed to a lot of different things, and meet some folks that share that. I think many of us are introverts by nature. And so it's a little bit overwhelming. So we probably sleep for a day and then we, get back to work.
Yeah, I swear I'm extroverted until I'm not.
Yeah, I think a lot of us have like an ambivert kind of tendency, but also it's an exciting 3 days, basically.
All right, last question. When you get home, what's your number one action item that you picked up here?
Oh my gosh, that is a really good question. I feel like that's going to be my honestly, the plane ride home is going to be sorting through my notes, sifting through, prioritizing, and just kind of looking at what is that next big action item. Because I think I learned so many things that I'm like, I have to go, I like to take physical notes. I like to go back and look at those and then be like, okay, this is the thing I can actually do. And so kind of sifting through a little bit. So that's my first action item. But I think there's a lot of things, and then just getting them in a queue so I can remember and kind of, I am one of those people where I can, I like to be a little bit structured in how I implement things, because if I get all these ideas and then I don't have a good structure and nothing really gets done. So I have to try to really think about it, prioritize, and then implement things as I go. So I like to get them in a queue.
One tip for listeners.
One tip for have a data strategy. I think that data is, it is what's going to help you make better decisions. And so I think really kind of starting that strategy of how do you bring all your data together? How do you kind of simplify it so you can get your arms around it, and then really kind of go out and amplify it?
And that's been a theme. It's like, all right, content is now commodity, or will be, thanks to generative AI. But the data that you produce, collect, and can interpret, that's your moat now, that's your value.
Absolutely. I think that data is such a critical asset for every company. And I think that if you can start collecting data now, you're going to be ahead. I think, the best time to do it was 5 years ago. The next best time is today. And so just really building out a data strategy and having that and knowing, and I think there's some really great, Selena is, keynoting. And so I think there will be some great stuff in the data cult talk. And so I'm excited for that one. I wasn't able to attend the one yesterday, but I think just overall, just really be thinking about data and how to make sure that you're building that as an asset within your business.
All right. What's your name? What do you do?
My name is Jimmy Kim. I'm the founder and CIO at Sendlane.com.
What's the I stand for?
Innovation.
Innovation. Okay. Yeah. How long have you been doing that?
I just did this in January. I just made the transition in January, stepping aside as I moved my president to CEO.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then how long has Sendlane been around?
So our story is really funny. It's we've been around for about 10 plus years because I started this product as a brand. I had a men's streetwear clothing brand, and essentially I had a problem, and the only two products available were MailChimp and Bronto back in 2013. And being that we were naive entrepreneurs, we thought we could go build it by just putting some money out there, and we did. And for the first 4 years of the life of the product was not external, it was internal. It was used by myself and my other two guys that put money in to kind of build this little product. And in 2017, I looked around and said, as I was exiting my company, I said, what do I want to do next? I'm going to go build this thing called Sendlane. So that's kind of how the story started. And the vision of the company has always been the same, which was I want to remove the tech stack because I think it's broken.
So you were a merchant and you built your own email service provider?
Yes, that's correct.
And would you do it again knowing what you know now?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably not. A lot of naiveness, some of the things that we did early on, like building our own delivery infrastructure, that was not because we were smarter than anyone else. We did it because we didn't know something else existed to do it for you. You know what I mean? Like Klaviyo uses SendGrid, for example. We wouldn't have done this because we didn't know better. Literally, that's the only answer I can give you.
All right, so how many times have you been to eCommerceFuel?
This is my very first time on eCommerceFuel.
And what do you think?
It lives up to everything I thought it would be.
What are the attendees like?
So, you know what I love about the attendees is that they're founders. Almost everybody's a founder in here, which I think is incredible. And they come in with open arms and guards down, and they're here to learn and experience, and they lean in. Like, nobody here has been mean or rude or anything. Like, they've been so nice of, like, even though I'm a provider at the end of the day, even allowing me to have a conversation with them if we're at the bar or we're at the events. And the second thing that I really like is, events always try to put together all these itineraries and schedules, and usually you don't get everybody showing up to these things. But here, dude, everybody's on time, they're here. Dude, every time I walk in the morning, I'm just like shocked by how people are here promptly, even after I know we were out last night till 2 a.m. in the morning and we're out with everybody. So it's been really a fun experience, and then the talks have been just fantastic. Like, someone who doesn't actually know some of this stuff, like it's been out of practice for a lot of things. I've been enjoying a lot of these talks. Like, they're just impactful, they're truthful, they're real, and they're obviously not the typical speakers you see in the circuit either.
Okay, recently, something occurred, and I had to update the DNS records for like 24 Shopify stores related to their email. Break down for me what's going on there with these DNS records.
Absolutely. This is something that I would say, basically what happened was, how there's always best practice and what you should be doing versus what the law is? There's always that end. So as a best practice, over the last year, actually, before this happened, I actually was at an event a year ago from this date, and I was actually talking about all these things, saying, like, even though you may not be doing this, you should be doing this. And what essentially happened is very simple. Number one, it was about locking what DMARC and DKIM is basically allowing the other side know that, like, you've given the handshake and this is like your email, and any other email that comes in is not your email, so like it starts helping protect spam. That's really what authentication is. It's the handshake between your domain name and your ISP, and saying this is a real email, it's coming from a real authority, and it's coming from this website. And so whatever IP is representing it, all that stuff. So that's what they call authentication, which also removes that little like via Sendlane.com and all that stuff, because now it's coming from your domain. That was the number one thing that happened. The number two thing that happened was the unsubscribe change. And I think this has not been a problem in this market, because most companies and brands have already have it where you can click on unsubscribe and you can unsubscribe in the header or down in the bottom of the footer, right? That's been pretty standard in this market. It's not anything crazy. The third thing that's changing that's been really interesting is Gmail and Yahoo are basically telling people that you've got to get better at segmentation. You've got to get better at like removing those dead people and getting rid of those things. And though Gmail and Yahoo and Google will publish it, they don't track opens, they don't care about opens. I know everybody in the market cares about it, but the reality is they don't. You know what they care about? They care about clicks, forward to a friend, archive, delete, junk, all these actions, time on email. These are the things they're measuring to measure your engagement, not your opens. They publish, it's really on Google's site. And so what they've basically said is we're going to lower the spam complaint threshold and continue to lower that until we get to a moderate area. And today it's 0.3% is basically it. So if you got 1,000 people, 3 people complain, you are at a 0.3 complaint rate, right? So it is not much, but it's just saying send email that people want. And if you don't and you hit that, what happens is you actually get hit by a block. And it's not that you get in the spam box. Your email will not deliver for a 24-hour period until they let you come back in to send some more until they feel that you're being compliant. So it's not an infinite thing, but it is a blocker that's going to occur. Now, the good news is, though it happened in February, it was kind of like an early warning shot. April, your next level warning shot will increase, meaning like you'll start to see more delays in your throttling of Gmail. Like if you're like, I sent an email and I don't see my email yet, why? Sometimes it's because Google's blocking you essentially, and they're temporarily pausing you and throttling you. So that's going to happen in April, and then in June, they're going full force enforcement. So in June, if you're not doing good, you're just not going to get your email in the box. And so that's going to be a tough one for people, and especially in the B2B market and in the direct-to-consumer market. I think people are decent at like the 90-day engage bubble, but that's not good enough anymore. Because if you think about it, a 90-day engage, most people are using opens, which we know are not tracked by Google, and also not really a highly accurate measurement anymore, right? Because of the way that I always joke, like in 2019, we used to be like 12 to 20% was a great open rate. Now suddenly we've gone to 30 to 60% is a great open rate. And what I've really seen is it's just a trend line, right? Is it good data? Is it hidden in the inbox? And is it real value? You know what I mean? It's ultimately something that is landing in the inbox ultimately. So that's probably what people think about most. But yeah, that whole spam complaint thing is probably going to be the one that really bites people in the butt. And it's hard because Google doesn't even report. Like, when you're in your ESP and you have that little spam complaint metric, that Google doesn't actually report to that. So that's only your Yahoo and AOL and Hotmail and Microsoft that you're seeing. Your Google, you need to actually install a thing called Google Postmaster Tools to be able to see your own domain reputation.
I had no idea.
Yeah, you don't actually see a spam complaint there. That's false information that you're seeing.
Good. Google Postmaster Tools.
Yep, it's a free tool. You can install it on your domain. Not hard to do. But once you install it, you can see your actual domain your reputation. You can see your spam complaints. You can see your volume and control there. That's what you should be paying attention to.
So what's the, who cares about open rate? What's the KPI that you look at for email campaigns?
Okay, so at the high level, clicks, obviously. Clicks being the most important one, right? But the second thing you should be looking at is what we call inside of our company called UTA, which is unsubscribe to action. Basically, how many people are clicking unsubscribe? Basically, unwanted messages, right? What's the number one thing people do when they don't want your message? They try to unsubscribe before they hit spam often. So we look at how often people are unsubscribing to your email just as much as we look at how many people are clicking your email.
So I want to look at, all right, what's a good unsubscribe rate? Certainly 0 is not too realistic.
Yeah.
Where's the danger zone?
It's percentage-wise, it depends on the list size, but we like to see somewhere between, under 1%, you want to see under, right? Under a little bit over, you start getting gray between 1% to 2%, and then over 2, you've got a problem because you've got a lot of people unsubscribing because the message is unwanted, which effectively means that you're not targeting properly, right? If it's too broad and the message is unfocused, you may end up in a position where you've got more people unsubscribing because they don't feel that you're relevant to them anymore, right? So that's where segmentation comes in, finding and understanding where they are in their journey. That's what customer experience is. And that's where it also leans into the other side of click-through rate, right? I always tell people 2.5% is what you should be aiming for. And people are like, I'm barely at 0.5%. Well, that means you have a problem. That means that you probably have a data problem because you're merging all your data together and you're not effectively seeing where the data is. And the simple tip I'll tell people is just separate your customers and prospects, the ones that bought and the ones that didn't buy. Why? You'll see your customer click-through rates probably north of 5-6%. But the moment you add those prospects, those ones that opted in for that coupon code or your newsletter, that's where your data problem ultimately lies, and that's what's going to fry people with the spam complaint changes.
And so, should I be engaging in list hygiene? Meaning, should I be unsubscribing people?
It's not unsubscribing people, it's being smarter about what their intent is, right? You take a person, I'll give you a perfect example. You give a person who opted into a pop-up 30 days ago and has not made a purchase, regardless if they've opened or clicked, right? You should probably reduce the frequency to that person because for some reason or another, it's not resonating, right? But if I take someone who's been 5 days in it and they're active with me, I should continue to send those people email, right? There's too often I see email people who haven't had an open or a click. I know open's still a dead metric, but it's still important because it's a trend line, because it tells you the device is real and potentially they're opening the email, maybe, right? But the click, and you haven't seen it in 30 plus days. Well, that person is probably out of your funnel and cycle. So effectively what it's gonna do is make people send less email, but more targeted email.
I like this approach. So we want to segment, and we're going for relevance.
Relevance, yes, we're bringing it back full circle. What is it, relevance, frequency? What's the old saying, right? Like, it's bringing it back full circle, but it's actually doing it in a more proper way because we actually have more data available. You don't have to create spreadsheets for this anymore. You just do it in segmentation and understand your customers and your data a little bit more. That's it.
So at these events, I find I get energy out of it. I get charged up. I get back to work on Monday. I'm excited. And often there's like one thing I picked up, something I'm like, this is what I got to do when I get in. Do you have that one thing?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have a lot of things that I've picked up here. I think from just learning about what the merchants want. Like I ask a lot of people a lot of questions, just probably like you do. Like I'll ask a merchant, like how long have you been coming here? What's your pain points and things like that. I heard a lot of interesting ideas. I actually ran into, I can't remember his name, David, I think his name was in. And he started talking to me about product ideas. And he was just like telling me all the things he wished he had at our competitor, right? At Klaviyo, for example, right? That's all relevant information. I actually Slacked a bunch of my team members over the week, like, this is what I picked up, just put it on the map and let's just talk about it when we get back, right? So I would say for me, it's product research. That's why I love coming here, is because I ultimately get a lot of prospect and customer interviews all day, and they just tell me what they want or they wish they had. Like, there was a lady that was here right before you came up to me. She was telling me about this homegrown loyalty program that she was running. It actually makes sense and it's brilliant, right? But it's not really feasible because we're not able to do it. And we had an honest conversation about it, right? I said, look, what you want is very much out of the norm. It makes sense for your business, but it's out of the norm, right? But as I'm trying to unify the stack and I'm gonna bring loyalty into this product here in next year, she's a person I need to continue talking to, because those edge cases could be tomorrow's future loyalty programs, because she's thinking about it in a different way.
It's in interviewing Shopify merchants, there are a lot of people who get a lot of value out of going to events and selling in person. And it's because they're meeting people face to face and talking to their customers directly.
Yeah.
And there is so much value in that, and you can't replicate that with a survey, with a phone call, or even with Zoom. Like, in-person, IRL, real, can't beat it.
No, 100%. That's 100, and that's probably why I've been on the road for 10 weeks, essentially. Like, I go home for weekends.
You poor bastard.
I go hit the roads. I was in, I can't remember, where was I last week? What week is this? Like Miami, I think I was in last week maybe, and then the week before I was in New York City. So like, I'm hitting the road and I'm out there talking to people, but it's helping me develop our product. I was on the floor here doing a roadmap call with my CTO talking about all the things, and I was like, no, we really need to do this because I hear about it a lot in the market and my customers are telling me about it. Let's prioritize this in front of all these other things, even though on your side it might not seem like it's the most important thing, but on my side I'm hearing it from the customers.
One email marketing tip for listeners.
Stop over-engineering everything. I can't stop shouting that message to a lot of people. What I mean by this is very simple. When you're doing $1 to $10 million, I'm going to give you a number, $0 to $10 million, you shouldn't have more than some campaigns and some basic flows. If anything more than that, you're over-engineering yourself. You need to be working on top of the funnel, and you need to be working on getting more new customer acquisition, right? The biggest brands, and what's funny is, I always laugh because we work with brands doing about $1 million and up. That's where our core market is. Our ideal customer is doing about $5 million, and we've got brands doing $250 million. But you know what's funny? The $250 million brands have a simpler program and a more effective revenue than the guys doing $2-3 million. But those $2-3 million people are over-engineered. They got flows and splits and splits and splits and conditional splits, and they over-engineer and think about it because often we overthink about this. Email is effectively a game of numbers and frequency and messaging. That's all it really comes down to. And if you think about it that way, you realize that sometimes we overthink about these things. If I'm sending a campaign every day, for example, I shouldn't even care about flows, because outside of a welcome email when they first opt in, you're staying in front of them all the time, right? So it really depends on your strategy, but I would say send more email and stop over-engineering yourself.
All right, who are you and what do you do?
Hi, my name is JP, and I run an e-commerce business called Pro Teeth Guard. We sell custom-fitted dental mouth guards for people who grind their teeth, which is about 8 to 10% of the population, but about 50% of entrepreneurs.
And it really wrecks your teeth, right?
Yeah, cracked tooth, pain, other issues, yeah.
Is this your first ECF? Have you been to these before?
I've been to, I think, 4 ECF events before this, and yeah, I think the last one was actually the first one I went to was this one in New Orleans, but it was like 5 or 6 years ago.
Okay, it's my first one, and I'm excited to be here. The thing that strikes me is how interesting the folks are. What kind of people are here?
So I think the average store revenue is about like 4 or 5 million, and then it's a $1 million kind of and up. So you're talking to people who are running, businesses of a size that is interesting and has interesting problems to solve. So not to say smaller businesses aren't interesting, but I think when you're trying to learn and grow, it's nice to know that everyone is kind of at a certain level. And then also, there are very few agencies or people trying to pitch you. Most everybody is a store owner and owns a brand and is, actively growing their brand.
Yep. A few people were like startled when I was like, oh, I don't own a store. I snuck my way in here by virtue of friendship with Andrew. Okay, so there was a leadership talk this morning. It was like 2 hours, it was long, it was impactful. What did you take away from it? Like, what's one action step or one thing where you're like, all right, this is what I got to do when I get home?
Yeah, so I took probably like 4 or 5 pages of notes from that talk, and a lot of good content. If I had to go to one, there are a couple of graphs that were really interesting. Actually, I'm going to say this one. There was a graph of basically when you hire someone, right, it's a curve that's kind of like a little bit like a parabola-shaped curve where it takes a little bit of time to get them going, and then like, you know, they might be able to produce a lot more output over time. Whereas if you just try to do it yourself and like try to improve the process, you get maybe a linear improvement over time. And there's going to be a painful period for a while where basically getting someone onboarded is going to be more costly and less output. And that's a painful period, but you have to go through that to get to the kind of the returns and the gains. And really being aware of that and planning around that and expecting that when you're trying to grow your team and try to grow your business, I think is a super important framework to think with.
One of the simpler, quicker tactical items he had was, hey, make sure you meet one-on-one weekly, regularly with your people and don't skip it.
Mm-hmm.
And that had not occurred to me. I didn't do it. And so like that's the first thing I'm doing on Monday is setting that up. Do you do like regular one-on-ones with your team?
Yes, but I still took notes away from that point that he made. And that point was in the one-on-one meetings, really make it their meeting. You know, it's the person who's reporting to you, it's their meeting to own. It's for them to bring up the things that they need help with, they need support with, they need resources to help them unblock, you know, their progress. I was doing the meetings, but I was kind of being a little bit maybe dictatorship, or, you know, I was
dictator-like.
I was being a little bit prescriptive in all the things that I would talk about. It's more about listening and really addressing their needs.
Yeah.
And having them drive it. Yeah.
All right. Last question. I noticed a lot of people came here with a problem in mind to solve. There's like some challenge or some topic that was frustrating them that they're interested in asking people about. What's yours?
We are very interested in TikTok Shop at the moment. I feel like this is kind of it launched last year, and this is kind of the rising tide. There's a lot of momentum behind it, and it's very new, but we're interested to learn from the people who've already kind of jumped into that market. And I believe there's a presentation tomorrow from someone, I think from 0 to $1 million a month on TikTok Shop. So really looking forward to that and learning the tactics and the strategy there.
Hey, where can we go to get some mouth guards?
Oh yeah, check out proteethguard.com. We have a 110% money back guarantee. So if you ever buy a night guard and you're not happy with it, send it back.
Ever since a certain other free split testing tool is discontinued, I've been looking for a replacement, and I found one. Enter our sponsor, IntelliGems. It's not just an app, it is your new A/B testing powerhouse. IntelliGems lets you test prices, shipping rates, and site content. It is a Shopify-specific split testing tool that's going to give you real data to drive your decisions and not just gut feelings, right? Data-driven decisions. IntelliGems fits any Shopify store, big or small. So whether you're just starting out or scaling up, it's tailored for you. You can find IntelliGems in the Shopify App Store and jump in with a 7-day free trial, test the waters, see the results for yourself. Or, for a sweeter deal, head over to intelligems.io/Kurt, K-U-R-T, and use the code KURT. What do you get? A sweet 10% off your first month. So stop guessing, start optimizing. Start your IntelliGems free trial and transform the way your Shopify store performs.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm Lianna Patch. I'm a conversion copywriter for e-commerce and SaaS.
And how many times have you been to eCommerceFuel?
I think this is my 5th one.
What are the attendees like?
Oh, they are just the nicest people in the world. And then you realize that they're doing like 50 million in top line, and you're like, I shouldn't be here.
I know it's been a while since I felt imposter syndrome, but then you're talking to people here like just so relaxed, so breezy, and they're like, yeah, I'm on my 10th business and like $1 billion.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go home and cry into my pillow.
Yep.
But no, it's inspiring. I love the energy.
Yeah.
So, key of the talks you attended, what was the one that like stood out?
I love Bill D'Alessandro. And
Bill DA.
Bill DA, earnings before interest, tax, and D'Alessandro is what the acronym stands for. And he talked about focus, which felt like a personal attack because we just put our store up for sale, and part of the reason is because the other owner wants to focus, and I get that. I've never focused on one thing forever, and like, what would that be like if I did that? What else did he say? There were just a couple moments in his talk where I was like, oh, stop it, Bill. Stop attacking me. Yeah. So it's always good when someone does that to you.
Or when you get home, usually when I go to a conference, I make action items. When I get back to work on Monday, there's like one key takeaway that I want to do.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Oh, I'm in the middle of setting up TikTok Shop. Yeah, and I have been. And we should have done it before, but like the best time to do it was 6 months ago, and the second best time is now, right? So trying to figure that out.
The two recurring themes have been TikTok Shop and AI.
Yeah.
Also, in Facebook is painful.
Yeah.
Like that's like the undercurrent. With AI, what's your favorite chat GPT prompt?
My favorite ChatGPT prompt, if you don't have your custom GPTs, is you are copywriter Lianna Patch, known for writing funny copy that converts. Please write so-and-so.
I refuse to believe that ChatGPT is funnier than you.
It's not.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
It's so cringe. It'll come up with some good dad jokes. And like,
okay, well, that's like cringe. That's bread and butter.
Floor level. Yeah, it's like not great. Every now and then it comes up with something that turns into an idea for me, so.
I like my toys.
Yeah.
Okay, who are you? What do you do?
I'm Sonia Roselli, and I own the skincare brand Sonia Roselli Beauty.
And what's your top selling products? What's that like?
Sex Appeal.
Sex Appeal.
Yeah, it's an instant gommage exfoliator from Korea. It's some really interesting Korean technology that's been around for years, but no one in the States had it. So you basically spray it on, rub your skin, and the product all comes off, and you're left with skin of a teenager.
You sent me one of these, and it became like one of the favorite products in our household.
Oh, I'm
like,
so happy.
I'm using, like, I had these bumps in my arms for 20 years. Drove me crazy.
Keratosis pilaris.
Took them off. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
My wife was using it. Then our 12-year-old started getting the acne, but he got the bumps on his face. He starts using it. He loved it.
That's awesome.
But he's like too awkward to say Sex Appeal. I'm like, it's written on there in huge letters. He'll be like, where's that spray? And we'll be like, what spray?
That's interesting that you say that, because a dermatologist friend of mine has said the same thing, because she gives it to all her patients. And she says, is there one that you could make for kids, because it's a little awkward because of the name Sex Appeal, so I might need to think about a rebrand. You're not wrong about that.
But no, all right, I digress. So how many times have you been to ECF Live?
This is my second time.
Second time?
Yeah.
What do you think?
I love ECF. I'm the ECF fangirl. I post a little too much on the group. I probably should be working, but I really love the community that they've built. It's one of the things that I think is great about ECF. My first year, I was very intimidated. I think a lot of us think we have imposter syndrome. And then the more I listen to podcasts and the more I listen to people, I don't know, I call it peacocking. I want to hear the real raw stories of like when you got your ass handed to you and how you fixed it. That's the stuff that makes us feel better, because even when I talk to other entrepreneurs, they're always saying, well, I don't know if I'm an expert, and they always get down on themselves. But when you put all of these people in the room and you start talking about stuff, these people know a lot, and they don't give themselves enough credit for it. So I think that's what I love about coming to ECF Live, is that even if I'm not an expert at an Amazon store, maybe I can, help you with some branding, or like Lianna can help you with copywriting. So I think that's what's really cool about it, and that you just get with like-minded people, and it's just really awesome.
I think what's interesting about it is because it's been going on 10 years.
Yeah.
A lot of these people came up together. Yeah. And so the default attitude is they don't have egos.
None.
Like I did not encounter any weird ego issues that you normally do at a conference.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Not here, because it's a reunion for a lot of these people, and that ends up being the vibe and the tone.
Yeah, it really is. And everybody's so giving.
like Paul with BK Beauty with the TikTok shop breakout room, I was just so blown away at how giving he was and how he's almost done the hard work for us, but he just is teaching and just so, telling everybody all of the secrets and what to watch out for. And, you don't really get that, especially from my world in beauty. In the beauty industry, it's very catty. Everybody's trying to be the top dog, but in ECF and like with the entrepreneurs that I meet, everybody's just like, hey, what you need help with? Because everybody knows that it's your brand. That's what really sells it. You could have the same exact product, but you're going to have your own people, and it's not really a competition.
So are you on TikTok Shop?
I am. I just launched, but I'm just not very active. I'm not as active on TikTok as I was Instagram, which it's my fault. But he gave us a lot of like good step-by-step things to do when you first launch on TikTok. That's really what I'm going to double down on this year. Yeah, I'm excited about that.
And then what's your takeaway when you get back on Monday? What are you doing?
Going all in on TikTok shops. My takeaway, I actually learned some cool new AI prompts. I'm already deep in love with AI. In our household, we call ChatGPT Chachi, because my husband and I were walking one day, and when it first came out, I was like, I'm in love with ChatGPT. And he's like, Chachi? And I was like, no, ChatGPT. So now it's like the nickname Chachi. I don't know, some people may get the reference, they may not. I think my biggest takeaway was, one of my biggest takeaway was everybody does it different. It was some of the things were, some people gave the same advice, and it was the actual opposite advice of what someone else would give. And I thought that was really interesting, because what works for some doesn't work for someone else, and how they get there on their journey. So I thought that was really interesting.
So what's your favorite ChatGPT prompt?
Actually, I learned it from the guy at A2X. I can't remember his name now, sorry. He said whenever you start prompting ChatGPT for either marketing or any kind of copywriting, ask it, do you have any questions for me? And then it will ask you questions to give you a better prompt, and it asks you all the questions and you answer the questions, and I was really blown away at how much better the result was.
All right, who are you? What do you do?
I'm Taylor Holiday. I'm the CEO and founder of Common Thread Collective.
And you're big on Twitter, right?
Big is a relative term. In our small world, I'm medium-sized, yeah.
Okay. And I put myself at medium-sized.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, okay. I'm in the range, yeah.
And what brings you to ECF?
So ECF, I think, is the best community for e-commerce on the internet. And it's because it reflects the personality of Andrew Udarian. I think he's an amazing human, and he's cultivated an incredible group of people that genuinely care about this industry, about each other. It's a wildly supportive group of people, super smart, and being around them is exciting, because at home, my wife can take about 10 minutes of me talking about e-commerce before she gets exhausted. Here, these people could do it all night. So I'm amongst my people here, and it's fun.
You didn't mention your talk.
Oh, and I was speaking. Yeah, there's that too.
All right, I want to hear about your talk, but
yeah.
Most people I've noticed have come here with, there's like a pain, a problem, something in mind that they're hoping they can get answered, that they can get an unlock on. Do you have one?
What I love about any of these conferences is you discover somebody who's doing a thing in a novel way that you hadn't yet considered, right? And I'll give you, for me, it was Paul from BK Beauty. So one of the things we also own is a skincare brand called Bamboo Earth. So we've watched Paul from a distance, and TikTok Shops has been intriguing and compelling. And so I got to sit with him at dinner last night and just hear him talk about the just ruthless focus they have on this opportunity and what it's done for his business. And it was like challenging in this exciting, novel way that now I can't wait to go back and figure out how to take some of that energy and apply it to our business. And that kind of it's really hard to get that anywhere else, besides sitting across from somebody and seeing them vividly come to life over a marketing tactic, and you're like, oh my gosh, I believe you so sincerely, I need to try this, So I think stuff like that is always exciting.
Yeah, I always come back, and I'm like going a million miles an hour when I get back to the office.
Yeah.
I didn't even need to actually learn anything.
That's right.
Just like you're right, the enthusiasm is infectious, and then it reminds me, been doing this a long time, reminds me of that excitement and that passion as a good way to recharge.
Totally. It's like going to New York City for me. I I don't know that I could live there, but man, do I love being there for a few days to soak up
too.
the energy. It's like, so it's the same thing. It's like some days you're in your office, it's monotonous, it's hard, and then you come here and you're like, I love this. And I remember why, and I trade off of people's enthusiasms when you're down. So I agree with that totally.
New York's my favorite city. I wouldn't live in.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel. Like it's my favorite city on earth, but I don't know if I could be there with my 3 kids in the winter.
Yeah,
so,
I'm not ready.
Yeah.
All right, so what was your talk on?
So I did a talk. I was actually, David Herman and I did a talk together where we took a ECF member's account and built a media plan live for them on stage. And this was Andrew Daring sort of came up with this idea of having David and I work together. We found an awesome woman by the name of Elizabeth Grosjean who is super generous and vulnerable and let us tear apart her whole account on stage. And my sort of mission right now is about uniting marketing and finance. So I got to sort of take the setup of helping her look through the financial and operational side of the business and how it informs her media strategy. David picked it up and talked Facebook execution, and it was fun.
What do you think people are consistently getting wrong about their marketing or media plan?
That it starts with a clear financial plan. Is that their media plan suffers from a lack of clarity of the business objective, a lack of connection to their inventory planning, and a lack of clear objective of what they're trying to get the ad account to do to serve the overall business outcome. Because it's actually really hard to get to that level of clarity that you can enable a media buyer to be effective. And too many times they're just sort of letting the ad account dictate the general direction of the business versus the ad account is in service of a clear financial objective for the organization.
Okay. But my clear objective is be profitable, or do I have to narrow this down?
No, you have to say it much more specifically. So I think the difference between be profitable to I want to do $4.14 million and $342 million on the bottom line for the year, and that translates to this next month, and this the subsequent month on these units that I'm going to purchase at this time, that's a financial plan. I want to grow 20% is not a financial plan.
I find when I have like actual concrete cash flow goals.
Yes.
Even if they're chosen arbitrarily, but realistically, because that is a real number,
That's
and
right.
I can divide that.
That's right.
I'm like, okay, I know exactly what these inputs and outputs need to be.
That's exactly right. So I'd say step 1 is exactly that. Just guess at a future number that you can track your performance against that expectation. Eventually you'll refine that process to get more sophisticated and modeling and more accurate over time, but data only matters in context of expectation. And if you don't have expectation of your numbers, they don't mean anything. And so every day you should be looking, I just got out of Roman Constock, he's another amazing founder, and you'll see every day in Slack he has his people post performance to expectation for every metric, and that's the game. How are we doing relative to how we thought we were going to do? Not because you're going to guess right. We're not playing guess the M&Ms in a jar here. We're trying to understand where we are off course so we can course correct quickly. And that's what expectation does. It helps you understand that.
The sentiment I have heard about Facebook here has been negative.
Sure.
Because is it harder? What's happened?
People have a extremely unhealthy emotional relationship with Meta, is what happens. Is that it is set a bar of expectation for performance that's so incredibly high that when they experience volatility or change in it, the level of frustration is just so outsized relative to its positive impact. And maybe I'm selling for Mark Zuckerberg here, but I don't think people realize the magic and power of that tool and treat it. Also, when you look at things on any individual daily basis, you're dealing in the law of small numbers, you're just going to deal with more volatility. It's the same way that you look, but if you zoom out on a wider spread over the period of time, you have the greatest ad platform ever built in human history. And I think the last few weeks, there's been some errors in Meta, there's been some CPM spends, nobody likes losing money in a way so I empathize with that, but at the same time, if we zoom out, we still realize that this is where we need to be acting and effective, but people have a highly emotional relationship with this channel.
What's your favorite ChatGPT prompt?
I have been playing more with DALL-E lately than I have been with ChatGPT, and I've been trying to, like all of my thumbnails, you'll enjoy this, all my thumbnails for all my YouTube videos and everything are all prompts created by DALL-E, and I've been trying to see how much, because I'm not a creative, so it feels like it gives me a power I don't have yet, and so suddenly I feel like I'm capable as a creator in a way that I wasn't before. So that's I'd say where I'm spending more of my time with right now.
I love that. Yeah, I love the idea of the tools. It's not like, this is not replacing anyone. This is just supercharging your
It's
output.
yes, it's whether it's coding, data analysis, like language translation, all the things that I don't know how to do in my human brain or don't have the skills for, I suddenly now can, is like really empowering once you feel it. You're like, oh dang, I'm now a designer. If I can think it, it can be there, And that's like really cool. It's exciting.
It was. I've heard so much about like people using AI in novel ways here, and a lot of it's about like creative output. And so many people excited about but struggling with TikTok Shop.
Yeah.
Like that one, they're like, all right, they see the opportunity there.
Yep.
But it isn't easy.
No. Well, nothing is, and I think that Paul's a great example of this. When I asked Paul why BK Beauty was so successful at it, his story he started telling me the story of that 10 years ago. And it started with, my wife was a creator on YouTube for 5 years. We understand the creator ecosystem. We've been seeding product into that community for 2.5 years prior to the existence of TikTok shops. People were already making videos of us all the time. So when the affiliate feature got turned on, we were able to immediately take advantage. And so people like to see these things often as like an overnight success story. And we all got to rush over there. No. Paul was positioned perfectly because he had spent years in a world that suddenly moved in his direction. It's really hard to recreate that the same way. And so when I asked him, I was like, so what would I do? He said, I would think about spending the next 6 months of seeding the product into the community before you even think of turning on TikTok shops. And I was like, whoa, that's like, okay, that's different than turn it on tomorrow and start making money.
He's playing 4D chess.
Yeah. And Paul went to film school. He sees himself as a creator, so his brand reflects this intimate connection to that community in a way that, again, it's like, oh yeah, of course, that's what was true about why you're winning here uniquely relative to everybody else. It's not that TikTok shops is this magic everybody wins all the time. There's very few things that are actually like that, but it's that for some people who were positioned in this really unique way, that feature of the affiliate ecosystem that you could turn on instantaneously was magic for him. But you can't just expect to recreate it in the same way.
Yeah, that's brilliant. All right, you are fully recharged. You're at 100%. Come Monday.
Yes.
What's the action item? What's the thing you do because you were here?
Yeah, that's a great question. I feel that I got a lot of reinforcement that the message that I'm focused on right now, this idea of bridging the gap between marketing and finance, is the right message for me to focus on, and I feel re-energized to continue creating content in that space. One of my good friends, Alex Bayness, he's awesome. He used to work at Trek and now has a cool brand, Scrubs brand, with his wife. He said to me last night, "You're on a hero's journey, bro. Like, you found your story." And I was like, okay, thank you. That's, I guess, a creator, you need fuel sometimes. You feel like you're shouting into a void and you go, yes. Is this good? Does anyone care? And so to get that is re-energizing, to go back and think of another script and record another video and edit again. And it's like, you get it. It's just sometimes someone just telling you that it mattered to them is like so life-giving. So that's what I'd say.
Yeah, it is a weird thing with especially the internet now.
Yeah.
You're putting content out there. Thousands of people may see it. You don't hear a single thing from any of them.
Yeah.
And it is so weird. Sometimes I think about it and I'm like, man, that's odd.
Totally. And there's days where I'm like, dude, that was a total flop. And then a random Thursday, I'll see a kid in Italy post an IG story watching my video. And I'm like, whoa, like that. I had no idea it made it there. I didn't get that feedback instantaneously. So it can be a lonely endeavor sometimes, but getting to be around these people and getting that feedback is so encouraging.
Crowdfunding campaigns are great. You can add social proof and urgency to your product pre-orders while reducing risk of failure. But with traditional crowdfunding platforms, you're paying high fees and giving away control, all while your campaign is lost in a sea of similar offers. It can be frustrating. That's why we built Crowdfunder, the Shopify app that turns your Shopify product pages into your own independent crowdfunding campaigns. We originally created Crowdfunder for our private clients, and it was so successful, we turned it into an app that anyone can use. Today, merchants using Crowdfunder have raised millions collectively. With Crowdfunder, you'll enjoy real-time tracking, full campaign control, and direct customer engagement. And it's part of the Built for Shopify program, so you know it's easy to use. So say goodbye to high fees and hello to successful store-based crowdfunding. Start your free trial and transform your Shopify store into a pre-order powerhouse today. Search Crowdfunder in the Shopify App Store to get started.